Thank you, our moderator, and also thank you, our participants and my co-facilitator. Uh, Good morning to you all, and we are glad to be in this session on poultry production. We hope to share our experiences with you on what to do in terms of planning, record keeping, purchasing, and marketing in the poultry section. Myself and uh, uh, Showe Mimo, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, very good attempt.
Myself and Showe Mimo of Oga Farms. I think she is well experienced in poultry farming and is here with a lot of experiences to share. I am actually an agriculturist by training, an animal scientist, but I don't think I have as much experience as she has in terms of the practical aspects. I have a farm called Sajoda Innovations, and I've been trying my hands on all sorts of things in the poultry section as well as in other livestock. So this is going to be a practically oriented training where we share experience with you as to where you are, where you want to be, and so on and so forth. So if you don't mind, I will share my screen with you so that we can lay some ground rules for the class and also be able to commence fully. So I will be sharing my screen now.
Sorry, are the participants going to introduce themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you seeing my screen? Are you
Yes,
seeing my?
ma'am. We can see the. Yes, we can see the screen, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. So we are actually supposed to start at 8. We are starting a little bit late. She has already apologized for that. Please, the participants that are there, can we also know you? Can you introduce yourself, please? All right, I'm saying that the class is supposed to be from 8 to 2. And we have agreed with my co-facilitator that we'll break it into 3 sessions. And so, of 1 hour, 30 minutes each. In between, we are going to have 30 minutes break between sessions, such that you will have a break and it will not be also too monotonous for you. And should you have any questions within the course of the presentation, you can indicate in the chat box or you can raise your hand. The moderator is there. She will notice that and also draw our attention to it. So these are the ground rules for this class, and we will commence the presentation in full. And so this class is for poultry farming, and poultry farming refers to the domestication and raising of birds, and it covers not only the chicken as we generally know. When we talk about poultry, most times our mind just go to chicken, but other birds are also included in the poultry section. And so you see things like the turkey, you see the small quail that is there. You also see a duck, they are all poultry, and also the local chicken that is there. And sometimes we also tend to think it is only the foreign birds that are poultry and that the local chicken is not. But that is not it. Others in this group also are the guinea fowl, the pigeon, the geese, and so on and so forth. So these are all what make up the poultry. And the principle of raising these things are similar, except that there are some peculiar differences that may come in terms of management, but I think major principles apply across board. And so I would like the participants to actually tell us what businesses they are into. We can see that for this purpose, they have indicated interest in poultry, but we would like to know what business are they into? Are they into poultry? Are they into other things and they want to learn about poultry? Or are they small poultry farmers? They want to improve. We just want to understand the background of the participants we are dealing with. Moderator, please, can you do that for us? Can we get to know what businesses our participants are into coming to this platform? Hello?
I think there's only one person left.
They have all left?
No, it seems there's one person left. Samuel. Okay, somebody else has just joined us. Mr.
But
Zachary Galba.
where is the moderator? Moderator. Samson na meeting, kar ka kira ni, ka yi abin da za ka yi.
Hello, ma.
I'm asking you to allow the participants to tell us what businesses they are into.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
I can see only one participant right now. We are 6 in this class. I want them to tell us what businesses they are into. Hello, Awa. Hello.
They've not unmuted themselves from their end.
They are hosts. You can unmute them.
I have on their device. They have not unmuted themselves.
Okay, can you send a chat and they should mute themselves?
I've sent a chat already. I've sent a chat, but they haven't replied yet. So maybe we'll continue when they unmute themselves. I've already asked them to unmute themselves.
Okay. So would have to have a good idea of the ground they are coming from, because it will assist us in being able to address their learning. Okay, is anybody on? Okay. And I also was thinking we can go through the second activity, and for us to be able to know what they know about poultry keeping. That too, we cannot do. Okay.
One person has answered, Ma. He said his name is Zachary Garba and he's into agricultural crop business.
Okay.
Yes, he sent that through chat.
He is into agricultural crop business.
Yes, Ma.
Okay, so he has no knowledge of the poultry background.
I don't think so. Or
Okay.
maybe he's into crop business, not poultry, Ma.
Exactly. And is he the only one that has responded?
He's the only one that has responded so far, Ma. Maybe the others will respond as we go on.
Okay, so as they come on board, then we'll get to understand their background, but at least we now know that he is into crop business, and therefore the poultry business is entirely new to him. And we also want to understand whether he wants to, what species of birds does he think he can raise, or he has no experience at all in poultry farming. That is what we are getting from him, that he doesn't seem to have any experience in the poultry business. For those of them that are in this course, we would have been happy to know where you are and where you want to be, and what are your expectations from this session. Can we please know what they want by joining this poultry section?
Send them this message.
Okay, thank you. And so people enter into poultry business for various reasons. One of the major reasons is that as you can see here, this is a poultry meat. This is a chicken, and it provides us with meat. Meat from poultry is considered a healthy meat. It is a low cholesterol meat, and therefore people are tending to eat more of it. Even though these days we hear that, okay, for us to utilize it properly, we should remove the skin and only eat the white part of the meat. But there it is. Another major product from the poultry is the eggs. We can see the eggs are of various shades. These are coming from the different breeds of birds that are laying. There is also the feathers. This can be used these days, it's being used as biofuels, is used for ornamentals, is also used for decorative purposes, just as you can see. So people wish to enter into poultry business for any of these reasons. I will want to skip this. And so what do you want to do, and what are you actually looking at, and what needs? Yesterday, in the presentation of yesterday, we learned that if you want to start a business, you actually need to study the business. You want to be able
There's a response from one participant. He said he lives in Abuja at the moment, and he wants to establish a poultry business in his village, Asaga, Ohafia, in Abia State.
Okay, that's nice. He wants to establish a poultry business in his village.
A poultry
but
business.
Right now he's living in Abuja. So he is a starter.
Yes, ma'am.
He wants to have a business when he learns how to go about it. And that is a good one, trying to be able to equip yourself with the knowledge necessary that will enable you start something. And we are hoping that by the time we are through what we have today, he will at least be able to understand the aspects of what he needs to do, because we will be addressing the learning outcomes that have been given to us. And so I tell you that you are welcome to think about poultry production. We now know that in Nigeria, there is about 454 billion tons of meat that is coming from poultry. That is how much Nigeria is producing. And there is also about 3.8 million eggs per year. And we have a total of about 180 million birds. And so when you hear these billions and millions, you begin to think, is it necessary? Is there a need for me? Can I actually have a space in the market? Can I compete with existing producers in the market? But the surprising answer is that the Nigerian production, all the statistics we have given, the Nigerian production is just about 30% of the total demand in the country. And so it tells you that there is still a supply deficit in terms of the number of poultry that people need in the country. There is still some deficit in the number of eggs that people require in the country. So yes, there are a lot of producers, but given the 180 or so million people in the country, the supply is still short of the total demand. And therefore, poultry production or poultry business is still a commercially viable venture that you can look into. I want to also indicate that there are about 180 million that are raised under the intensive system. About 60 million are raised in the semi-intensive system, and the remaining are in the intensive system. So the intensive system has the least amount in terms of total production, given the statistics we have seen here. And therefore, even though there are a large number, a lot of them are under the intensive or semi-intensive system, and therefore the production potential for this class of poultry is not as high as is expected to be able to meet the demand. So should you come into the poultry business with expertise, you will be able to produce efficiently and have a space to be able to fit into this production and compete favorably with the people that are already in the business. The Nigerian poultry sector is extremely fragmented, with most of the chickens raised in backyard or poultry farms with less than 1,000 birds. And therefore, there is room for you to join the poultry business. Basic necessities before starting a poultry farm. What are the things that you need to consider? What are the things that you need to know? What do you need to be familiar with in order to actually commence a poultry business? And so we will need to have a good understanding of the principles of running a poultry farm. It is important, or it will be wise for you to learn about the business. So as we are doing today, we are trying to learn about the poultry business. That is very important, that you have an idea of what the business is all about. But I think it's also important that you go a little step further. Most times people enter into the poultry business without learning anything. You just think that, okay, you can have a space and you just either in your backyard, or if you have money, you create a good place and you now, but that is a good way to fail. And that is why when you travel along the road, when you go to our peri-urban and suburban areas, you see a lot of beautiful edifices of poultry looking empty. Some have done maybe one cycle, second cycle, and you don't see them again. That is because they have not actually studied the basic principles that is required to enable them make profit and remain sustainable within the poultry sector. In fact, it is good for you to serve as an intern with a good poultry farmer, so that you have the time to study what is done. The Nigerian society is such a free and liberal society, to the point that when your neighbor is raising birds, you can actually go there and say, I want to learn this. You will see that the neighbor will be happy to have you learn from him. This may not take too long. It's not as if you go and stay one month, 3 months, but you can spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks trying to understand the ropes of the business, trying to know what they do, asking questions as to why they also attend to some of these things. And when you do that, you will realize that it gives you a good grasp of the business. Where you have the capital to hire people, it is still advisable that you know what you are doing. And when you are starting a poultry farm, it is advisable that you use your workforce. The workforce you engage should also be able to have had some experience in poultry keeping. It is not proper that when you want to start, you just get anybody, okay, because you think it is just feeding. It is not just feeding. Or you think in the morning they give them water and they lock the place. It goes beyond that. It needs somebody that can look at the poultry house in the morning and be able to determine that this bird appears sick, this part appears healthy, how does the litter look? Is it healthy? Should we change it? There are so many things that go on in making it a successful venture. And so it is important for you to know some of these principles and to also engage people that have an idea of what they are doing so that you can also learn from them. You also need to investigate why other poultry farmers have succeeded and why others have failed. This is quite important. There are lessons to be learned. Some people have done it and have been successful. What did they do that make them successful? Some have done it and they have failed. What have they done that have made them to fail? So if you are able to learn these lessons from them, you will incorporate it into your own experiences, and you will be able to do better than what they have done. In terms of those that have succeeded, you will be able to add value. You will be able to think ahead of what they have done and do more. Where they have failed, the mistakes they have made, you will also avoid such mistakes such that you also don't fall into the same trap with some of them. Very important to note. Many go into the poultry business without a well-written business plan. Okay. Business is a high-risk business, and so you must be able to very well, understand what you are going into very well, and have a plan, have a business plan, such that it will guide you through the course of your operations. If you have a business plan, allow experts to make input on the business plan, such that they can advise you as to where you are right and where you are wrong. Oftentimes, you may also need resources from outside. Nobody will give you or commit his resources to you if you don't have a plan that tells him that, okay, within the next 6 months, I'm going to need to have some return on investment, and I'm going to be able to pay my loan in a certain manner. So you need to have that to be able to make progress and to be able to engage people that are in a position to provide some facility to you, so that they are convinced that you know what you are doing and this is your projections as to how you intend to expand, how you intend to run the poultry cycle. When you want to planning your poultry farm, it is important to know that you cannot let everything about poultry farming in one day. So when you go to somebody and ask, and he tells you what he can remember to tell you, know that you don't have all the information, because you cannot learn everything in one day. Even with the experience you have on the farm, you realize that you continue to learn. And so training, capacity building is very important. Even for your farm staff, it is important to ensure that they are adequately trained and that you key into any training initiatives that is available, either with non-governmental organizations that may come your way, or with the agricultural development projects, ADPs in the states. Each state has an ADP, and they're divided into zones, and they have sectional heads. Poultry is one of those sections. You can therefore go and learn and improve on your knowledge. More so, new techniques come up every day. And so there are new things that you will always be, that will always be available for you to be able to learn from. New and modern equipments are also coming up all the time. Today, you see there are nipple feeders, there are automated drinkers. These are things that come with technology, and they measure precisely the requirements of your animals. So this knowledge will help you have a more efficient production system and also be able to have better profit at the end of the day. And each farming business follows specific operational guidelines for making a good profit. And so poultry is not different. If we take, for instance, the crops section, and supposing you want to grow maize, you need to go and get a good seed. There are hybrid seeds in the market. When somebody is able to go and get such seeds, you cannot compare the performance or productivity on his farm from the person that uses the local variety, even if they put the same amount of fertilizer. So it means that getting the right seed at the right time is very important. Knowing when to apply fertilizer, knowing when to weed, and knowing also when to harvest and how to process the harvested products all contribute to the success of the business. It's the same thing in the poultry keeping. When you want to raise birds, you also need to decide what birds you want to raise, where are the sources of the birds, what are the management practices that are involved in the production of these birds, and what are the health measures as well as biosafety measures that you need to put in place to ensure that your farm remains healthy, your productivity is optimal. So it's important to know these specific guidelines for the poultry industry so that you can key into that. When such principles are not carefully followed by farmers, it results in serious losses for the owners. Should you think that they are not necessary and therefore you can do away with them, you may be heading for a serious loss. Should you think that when people close their farm gates and restrict movement of people or other livestock into the poultry area, should you think that, oh, they are just too restrictive, they just are not friendly, they don't want to assist people? Should you think that this is what it is, and you open your own gates, before you know it, you open the door to a lot of diseases, a lot of things that theft, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the management principles that must be adhered to. And if you stick to those things, it goes a very, very long way in ensuring that your farm is successful and that it is also effective. Steps in planning a successful poultry farm. What are the steps that you need to take to plan for a successful poultry farm. You can actually plan, but it doesn't end in success. So it is important that you recognize that certain steps are necessary for your farm to be successful and for your farm to remain in business and for your farm to be profitable over time. These steps are quite necessary. It's not exhaustive, but these are some of the steps that we need to look at. We said we should learn poultry farming from the nearest poultry farm. Please don't take this as a joke. It is important that you have some hands-on experience at another farm. For me, when I was starting, I had to go to Rubello University area, and I felt that, okay, I want to start this small backyard poultry. And so I went to the university poultry farm. There were staff there, but I requested that they allow me stay with them for 1 week. And they were very happy to have me. And I now realize a lot of the things I have learned is from these people. Even though I was a graduate, what I was able to learn from the farm staff that are technical in orientation at that place has helped me a long way in establishing my own and in avoiding avoidable mistakes on the farm, and in ensuring that from the 50 I started with at that time, I was able to progressively improve on the number of birds. So whether you want to raise for broiler or you want to raise as layers, or you even want to raise ornamental birds like the peacock that we saw, it is important that you try to have some hands-on skill. Having hands-on skill also enables you know when your own farm staff are doing well or not. It gives you the edge to be able to improve on their activity. At some point, when I had to leave and I was not able to stay too much around the farm, I had to also even employ coppers such that they can build capacity on my farm. So try to learn. It is important to do that. And then you also need to decide the chicken products you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on layers? You need to take a decision. Do you want to only look at the broiler production? You need to take a decision. Do you want to combine the two? You need to take a decision. What is the capital implication as well as infrastructural implication that is required? These come into decision making. If you want to do broiler production, you probably will do a deep litter system. It affects the kind of house that you will provide. If you want to look at layers production, you also may be able to do a deep litter system. You may be able to do a battery cage system. What is the amount of money you have? This comes into play in helping you decide the product you want to focus on. But then I want to say that it is not only production that is involved in poultry. Other aspects of it is you may wish to be engaged in hatchery business. It's also an aspect of poultry production, such that what you do is you have parent stock and you keep them and they lay eggs and you use your incubators to hatch and you sell day-old birds. That is a very, very important business in the poultry sector because it determines the birds that go out. And therefore, the pedigree of such birds is very important. Where are they coming from? When people buy birds from you as in your hatchery, do they grow as they are supposed to? Or they die very easily? or they waste their feed and they do not grow. Do you also want to engage in the distribution sector? You may choose to only be an egg marketer. And so you collect eggs from producers and you distribute to retailers. It's an aspect. Poultry production has its own value chain. Which aspect of the value chain do you want to participate in? Which aspect of the link in the total production cycle do you want to come into? That is also important, and you need to consider that. You also need to think about the capital outlay that you have that will enable you do any of the sectors that you want to come in. Each of them also have a different return to capital. How long do you want to wait before you get the return to capital? If you are engaging in a layer production, you know that for layers, they may take up to 20 weeks before they start producing, and that is no joke. Do you have the amount of capital required to take them up to that 20 weeks before they start laying? And probably will take another 5 to 6 weeks before they begin to pay you off and you don't incur additional costs. You also need to think about the location of your poultry farm. Like the person, one of the participants has said, he is right now in Abuja. He wants to set up a poultry farm in the village. So he is already thinking about the location of his farm. A major factor to consider as far as location is concerned is the market. Poultry products are perishable. Poultry products are live products. What is the distance between where your farm is and where your potential market is? Because from your market survey, you would have had an idea, or you will be targeting a particular market. So what is the distance between that? Let the travel time not lead to mortality in terms of movement of live animals, or need to spoilage in terms of movement of dressed animals. And let it also not cost you too much, so that at the end of the day, the final product you have will be at a higher price with those that are within or closer to town. And therefore, this price differential will make some people not to be interested in buying your own. And that is why a lot of times you notice that very large poultry farms are set in peri-urban settings. They are not in the town because it is not advisable for you to raise birds in town. To raise birds such that you are disturbing your neighbor with smell. You know that poultry litter has a lot of smell, particularly if it is wet litter. If for any reason water drops in the poultry house, or for any reason it is raining and water enters at one side of the house or the other, before you know it, the litter will be smelling. If you are within a residential area, you will cause disturbance to the people that are there, and it is also not good. There are rules that restrict such behaviors. There are biosafety rules that limit the kind of poultry you keep within residential area. So it is advisable that it is a little off the town, not too far as cost as to incur cost for you in terms of transportation, and not too far as to make it difficult for you to get to the market. And getting it at the peri-urban area also helps you secure relatively cheap
za ka gyara min wannan abu. Wani ya ɗauke. Na taɓa wajen ina son cire voice na. Sai na ji na fiye.
Na kenan.
Nan bai.
Wannan shine mix.
Hello, ma. Please, ma, we can't hear you. Please, can you unmute? Okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
Okay. So we have mentioned that there are 3 main production systems. You can raise your birds extensively, where for a good part of the time they roam about and get food wherever. At mornings and evenings, you provide some supplementary feeding for them, but most of the time they are on their own. That is regarded as the extensive system. This system comes with low cost, low input cost, yes, but it also comes with low productivity. So you don't put in much, you will also not get much out of it. Most times, most often, this kind of production is mostly for the local birds. There is also the case that the birds are exposed to all kinds of disease and environmental conditions that may not be suitable for them. But for people that go into commercial production, they either go into the semi-intensive system or the extensive system. This semi-intensive system is practiced a lot, particularly in foreign countries, where the use of organic foods is taking premium, and where even the price of such organic products are also of premium value. Most times houses are provided and the birds live within the house, but a fenced area is also provided where they roam about and they graze in good pasture with a lot of control over what they eat and the nature of medications that is provided for them. The main commercial system is the intensive system, where you keep them solely confined. Either it is the deep litter or it is the cage system. The main criteria is that they are solely confined and you provide all that is required for them. This is capital intensive, but it is also the most profitable of poultry keeping. You can engage in that, start small, and progressively increase the number of birds that you have, so that at the end of the day, you can reach the target of the number of birds that you want in your on your farm. You need to procure equipment for the poultry farm. These are the things that you also need to consider. Now, the nature of the equipment you procure depends on the kind of production system you want to engage in. If you are running a deep litter system, you are going to get feeders and drinkers and place them at specific points within the deep litter system. So you need to buy these feeders, you need to buy the drinkers, you need to buy the nesting boxes. Supposing there are layers, you need to provide a nesting box for them where they go in and lay their eggs. you need to provide brooding area such that when you bring your day old, you brood them first, because you cannot brood in an open space. And brooding in an open space also is energy consuming. Whether you are using electricity or you are using the local charcoal, it takes a lot more to heat the place and to get the atmosphere of the environment adequate for the birds. So that is also part of what you need to consider. And if you are going to do an intensive system that is cage oriented, then you need to buy the battery cages. They are also expensive. They come in sets. You will realize that I think a set will take almost 90 birds. Some put a little more than that, where you increase the stocking density of each cage. But these decisions are fundamental to even the management practice that you engage in. For the deep litter, it is less expensive, but it is labor intensive. And so you will eventually have to hire more hands to be able to provide the water, to be able to provide the feed, so on and so forth. For the cage system, it's expensive to start in terms of purchasing, but you will realize that when you are able to raise the capital to purchase the cage, then you have done much of the work. You do not need as much labor or hands on the farm to be able to manage them. And then some of them are automated these days. There are a lot that are automated. All you need to do is to actually turn it on, turn it off, as the case may be, and the eggs roll on their own to the collection tray. The feed itself is spread automatically, and you realize for the water, it's in the overhead tank, and the nipples are there for each bird, and as they peck on the nipple, they are able to drink water. So the amount of labor required is low in terms of the continuous production system. But is in terms of the capital outlay that is required to start such a business, the cage system requires more money to start. So you, depending on the resources that you have, you will be able to take these decisions. Sometimes you can start from one aspect and graduate into another. As you make more profit and reinvest your profit, or as you choose to secure facilities to expand your business, you can actually transist from one aspect of, from one type of production system to the other. So they are not exclusive. There's no rule that says if you are doing this, you cannot do that. Sometimes some people also have the two within the same farm. So it all depends on the amount of resources at your disposal and for you to purchase what you need to purchase. The next thing is to buy starter chicks. This is one of the major factors to consider. Where is your source of day-old birds? You will, when you get to the market, there are all kinds of day-old, or all kinds of companies that sell all sorts. You should inquire and be able to know the ones that are selling the right stock. If you look for probably a cheap one and get into the wrong stock, you may keep birds that are not responding to the feed at all, because the genetic makeup of these birds are not correct. And so you continue to provide feed and you see that your broiler is not growing. When people are ready to sell their broilers at 5 weeks, at 6 weeks, yours will get to 9 weeks, and you will still see at 9 weeks the bird is weighing probably 1 point something. That, if you have done all management practices correctly and the bird is not growing, it means it is not a good material. You can also have layers and they begin to lay, and then you notice that the laying cycle is very short. Ordinarily, when birds start laying at 20 weeks, 24 weeks, they can take the next 6 months, giving you very high production. But in some cases, you will notice that they can just lay for 3 months and the production cycle comes down. That means that something is wrong. But I also want us to understand at this point that you need to be able to do all the management practices that you should do before you can conclude that it is the stock that is not correct. If you do not feed the animal well, there is no way it can do well. If you do not provide an environment that is adequate for it, there is no way it can do well. If you do not provide good medical attention, there is no way it can do well. But if you do all that and the bird is still not producing well, then you begin to look at the source of the birds. So as you are thinking of planning for a poultry, it is good to talk about with farmers around you, what are the birds or breeds that they are using? Where do they get them from? For us, right now, I'm speaking to you in Kaduna. There is the Olam breeds. They bring them from Olam farms. There used to be the Obasanjo farms that used to supply. And you have Pfizer that used to supply. There's chai birds. When you get to even the booking place, sometimes you notice that the prices are different. They will tell you, if you want this one, it is 300. If you want the other one, we'll give you for 240, like that. It may not just be the price. So don't be carried away sometimes with only the price, because newcomers in the poultry industry tend to lower their day-old price to be able to secure a market. But ask from your friends, ask from your colleagues that are into the business, which one is the best one that they can use. And then you will also be able to take a clue from there. The workers on your farm, who are they? What training do they have? What training do you intend to give them? These are very important questions that you need to ask yourself. Poultry business, a lot of farms have collapsed because the workers on the farm are actually thieves. They engage in all kinds of theft that sabotages the farm, and before you know it, you are out of business. So you need to have credible people on the farm. You also need to provide security measures on the farm to ensure that when people come in and go out, they are not necessarily checked as per people that are stealing and that you don't trust them, but that there are measures to ensure that you don't really go out of your way to take something out of the farm. You also need to know that they need training. So when they are offering capacity building training on some poultry management practices, consider it as part of your enhancing efficiency in your farm to recommend that your staff go to such trainings. At the end of the day, whatever you may have paid in those trainings actually pay off in improvement in the management of what they do on the farm. So it is not a waste when you send them to train and acquire more skills to be able to handle your farm properly. Again, for you, it is also important that you interact with them and learn from them. Most times, those that are very close to the animals and relate with them learn or know a lot. And so it is important that you liaise with them. You will be able to understand certain things that they know, and they will be able to tell you, and you can take decisions much easier or faster than when you stay only on the ones that you know. There are intrinsic knowledge. People understand certain things and they can advise and tell you. So don't act like you know everything, you are the owner of the farm, and therefore nobody can say anything. That is not a healthy attitude to bring about progress on the farm. And again, you don't need to overstock the farm with people. You need to be able to determine that they work and work well, but you don't need to overburden them, or you also don't need to carry excess burden in terms of managing the number of people that are on the farm, because at the end of the day, you are there to make profits. And so you should be able to do all that within the context of profit making. Sometimes we just choose to bring family and friends into the poultry business. I would like to advise that where your poultry is fully a commercial enterprise, do not make family and friends the source of your labor, because they do not have the commitment that the hired labor will have. A lot of times they can play around on things that you cannot afford to play with. And before you know it, the farm has failed. A lot of farms have failed because the owner of the farm brought his brother as the manager. Not necessarily because the brother knows what to do, but because he is my brother. And if you do that, you are likely to fail. So be objective, be rational, and be fair in treating farm staff. Fairness in the sense that they are also human beings and they also need understanding. But be firm in trying to ensure that they stick to rules and regulations governing the management of the farm, so that you do not put in money and have a complete loss. Feed the chicks properly. Chicks, most times, especially when you have broilers, you are told to feed them ad libitum, that is, as much as they can eat. That ensures the fast growth rates. In fact, in some broiler farms, they provide light during the night to encourage the birds to eat. This is to ensure that they grow as fast as possible. For layers, it is important that they eat well. They may not eat as ad libitum as broilers, because most times for layers, at 9 o'clock in the night, you can actually off the light, and first thing in the morning, once light comes in from the outside, they begin to eat again. But it is important that birds are fed adequately. If you don't feed them adequately, they will fail to perform. That is where garbage in, garbage out will also apply. So such that it's not only in computer that garbage in, garbage out. If you don't feed your birds well, you will notice that they will not grow well, or the production objective will also not be achieved. So make sure birds are fed adequately. These days, there are people that also cut corners, and growth hormones are also incorporated into feeds. This is not a proper management practice. Feed manufacturers engage in that so that people will buy their feed and they think their birds are doing well. But in terms of biological safety, it is not encouraged that you should use growth hormones in feed such that your birds grow very fast. And I will return to the issue of feed later. So let me leave this at this point. Then you maintain a proper poultry health management program. There are vaccination schedules. As you are bringing your birds, you need to give them Lasota, you need to give them Komarov, you need to give them fowlpox vaccine, you need to deworm them, you need to provide for lice. All these are to ensure healthy birds on the farm. If you don't do that, a disease will set in and your bird's part may die, or even whole birds or whole farm can go. Especially in some cases, Newcastle disease, before you know it, in the morning you pick 10, in the afternoon you pick 20, before you know it, you are gone. So these vaccination schedules are very important. Get in touch with the vet. Have a veterinary person consulting on your farm. He will provide the guide as to when to do your vaccination, how to do it, and the dosage that you need to use for the vaccines. He will also provide the maintenance drugs that are required, like dewormers. These are not specific, these are not vaccines, but you need to deworm your birds. Do you need to do it monthly? Do you need to do it once in 2 months? They will also advise you on that. Most importantly, provide a healthy atmosphere. If the birds are overcrowded, they will easily get sick. So stocking density on a farm is also very important. What is the size of your farm or a particular pen? And therefore, you will be able to determine what is the number of birds that needs to be in this place. What is the location of the farm? If you are living in a very hot environment, you realize that the design of the poultry house will be different because you need air in circulation. And so you will realize that the walls these days are very low. Before, we did not know it, and so we build 10 blocks, then put small nets, and then make a roof. But it is becoming clear that that environment is too hot for the birds. And so these days, you see people looking at 2 blocks, at the most 3, and they have fence, barbed wire surrounding it, or cage wire surrounding it. And therefore, there's movement of air to and fro. That helps to control microorganism build up on the farm. Where you have a dry litter, there will be less incidence of disease. But where you have a wet litter, an environment that is damp, where the ammonia build up in the litter is high, in some poultry houses, as you are approaching, the smell that comes out from the poultry will drive you. The ammonia produced from the poultry litter, the uric acid, before you know it, it's the same way the birds inside are irritated by that smell, but they cannot run away. So they remain there, and when they are there, it disturbs them to the point that it reduces the amount of food they can eat. And once that is done, before you know it, you now notice a reduction in production. They may not look sick, but they are also not doing well. And that is not to your advantage. So both in terms of the environment that you are keeping them as a house, as well as in terms of medications that need to be provided, you need to work seriously on that to ensure a well cared for and healthy environment. If you are working under the deep litter, the birds are within the litter. Once you notice that the litter is no longer friable, when you pick the litter and it is almost like a small sand, it is not sticking. It is more like half grounded corn. Then that's when you call that friable, and it means it is dry. But when you check and you hold it and it can form balls or bolus in your hand, then it also means it is not too good and that you should change the litter. So change the litter as often as you have to. It is the density of the birds that tells you how often you need to change the litter. It is the nature of the litter that tells you that you should change it. Nobody can say, okay, it is every week, because it depends on how many birds are there. If it is a relatively large house and the number of birds are like 100, you realize you keep your litter for 3-4 weeks before you change. But where your stocking density is high, then you may have to change it every 2 weeks. So that is where the experience of your workers come in. They should be able to see and know that it is done. And if for any reason water poured on the litter, maybe when you are providing drinking water and somehow it poured on the litter, it is advisable that you also pack that one and throw it off. So these are some of the things that you need to do to maintain proper health within the flock. Should you notice any animal is sick, please isolate it. As fast as possible, isolate animals that you notice are sick and take them to the sick pen. There should be somewhere in the farm that is called a sick bay. And at that sick bay, you isolate animals and treat them separately. This is because if you allow them to stay, they can easily spread diseases to others, and you will now have a whole farm to take care of. I think this is no longer news to us. This is the area of COVID-19, and all of us are having to stay in our homes and isolate, or when we are going out, we need to cover, is because we are talking about the spread of disease. It's the same thing in the poultry. Where there is sign of ill health, isolate the animal. Even if you have to treat all of them, still isolate the one that you notice is sick. When you need to dispose of dead animals, there is no way we can run away from having animals that die. We human beings have a lifespan. So sometimes, no matter how well you have managed the farm, you will notice that 1 or 2 may die. The process of evacuating dead birds is very important. If this bird has died as a result of a communicable disease, and you just throw it at the back of the poultry house, the likelihood of getting infection into your birds is there. So for most birds, there is always an incinerator where you dispose dead birds. If you want to bury, it has to be deep burial. You don't put it on the surface. So take care to ensure that birds that are dead are also properly managed, such that they do not cause any problem onto the healthy ones that are on the farm. The last one that you need to consider in these things is market and sell your poultry harvest. The whole plan that you have been making, the whole steps that you have been doing, if it does not have a good market strategy, then you have not done anything. It means you have actually not landed. So this is a very important component of what you need to do. Like we said earlier, you will have to have determined your market niche. You will have to have determined your area of the challenge you are trying to address. Is it that there is less meat and therefore you want to produce broilers to increase the supply of meat in the market? Marketing is quite important. Even before you put in the birds, you need to do some market survey. You need to go around, meet hoteliers, meet supermarkets, advertise your products, be able to get some orders ahead of time, such that once your birds are ready, you can dispose of them. Because if you don't dispose of them, you will have to continue to feed them. They are live animals. So you cannot keep them because they did not buy, so you start keeping them. Then the other alternative is for you to dress them and sell them as dress birds. Either way, selling at the optimum time is the most profitable for you. So if they are broilers and the market determines how heavy they can get. These days, you have a lot of people selling barbecue chicken. And those people selling barbecue chicken do not necessarily go for chickens that are 1.8, 2 kg, 2.5. Because people that come to buy will more likely commit 1,000, 1,500 to buy. So if the bird is very big, the cost will be high and people will not buy. And so that kind of customer relationship is also important to help you know at what weight your birds should go into the market. If you are targeting the barbecue people, they come in at 5 weeks and they buy your birds. If you are targeting home consumers, they like big chicken, and therefore they come in 7 weeks, 8 weeks when your birds are close to 2 kg, and they also come in and buy. You need to determine that, but you need to make the market, you need to understand the market such that your products easily fit within the market. If you want to supply hotels, you need to also set your supply schedule, and also that also influences the production schedule. If they want it every 4 weeks, how do you now arrange your production cycle in the farm such that every 4 weeks you have birds to be supplying? So these are some of the things you need to consider when you are planning a successful poultry farm. And if you are able to adhere to these guidelines, you will be able to plan your farm adequately, and you will be able to have value for the money you will be investing, and you will be able to make profit, and you also will be able to expand on the farm as you go. Then what is hooking my system? I was saying I will return to the issue of feeding. This is because feeding is a major cost in poultry production. The feed only accounts for 70% of the total cost of your production. And you know that even in exams, when you have 70%, you have an A. And so you need to watch the feed very well. Your success depends largely on the quality of feed and feeding schedule you choose. That is why you need to determine the feed manufacturers you engage in. There are so many in the market. There are top feeds. There is Pfizer. There is Vital. There is Chief Feed. There is also some local ones depending on the environment you live in. Most times, the feed manufacturers are required to put a tag on the bag. That label is supposed to give you the nutritional value of the feed. And so if you look at that label, you will be able to see the protein content of the feed, the carbohydrate content, and so on and so forth. Most times, some manufacturers engage in sharp practices and do not necessarily adhere to what is written on the tag. And here again, you need to discuss with your friends, with people involved in the poultry business, which one of these various sources of feeds actually perform. If you are close to a laboratory, you can take samples of this feed and actually take it to the lab for analysis. If you take it to the lab for analysis, you will be able to compare the results of the nutritional value of the feed vis-a-vis what is written on the tag. And if the difference is so much, then you know that this content is not exactly what is there. And so it may not meet your product objective. But if you are not in a position to do that, then you need to talk with one or two people that are having birds, and they will tell you, experience actually counts here a lot. They will be able to tell you, okay, I use this or I use that. And sometimes it is also our duty to report back to the feed manufacturers. That is called feedback. And I use this, and this is it. Again, I want to say that feed alone is not the only component that measures production. Other management practices on the farm affects production, but feed is a major component. And so if we are using a feed and we have done all that we need to do, and we realize it's not doing well, as an entrepreneur, you can actually report to where you bought it. They are supposed to have a record of feedback so that they can go back and look at what the composition they have and see whether there is any problem in terms of composition. Your success depends largely on the quality of feed and schedule. Most times, first thing in the morning, we'll feed our birds. Then we feed in the evening. If we are not using automated feeders and drinkers, then our staff actually need to go into the poultry house mornings and evenings. We need to observe and be sure that they actually do that. For me on my farm, there are times I go there unexpected, and I just notice that the feeders are empty. And then I now ask, okay, why should this feeder be empty? They will now tell, okay, we are just about to do it, and so on. So you need to closely observe what they are doing, because if they don't feed them well, at the end of the day, it actually increases your cost of production. You don't sell them on time, they don't lay enough eggs, they may develop some health issues, and so on and so forth. So set up a feeding regime that is adequate or efficient for you. That depends on the number of feeders or drinkers that you have. If you have enough feeders and they feed well in the morning, it can last close to the evening when they will feed again. But if the number of feeders are not sufficient, you will now realize by 2 o'clock it is finished. And they will not go in the afternoon, they will wait until it is evening. And so there is about 2, 3, 4 hours of your birds not having anything to eat. It may reduce the quantity of feed they are eating, but it prolongs your production and it increases ultimately the total cost that you will be incurring in the business. So you can feed twice a day if the feeders are sufficient. But if they are not sufficient, then you may need to top in the afternoon and then provide feed in the evening. The same thing with water. Birds require water constantly. When we say constant, we mean all the time. So at no point should the drinkers be empty. If the drinkers are empty, it reduces the quantity of food the bird will eat. So if it is thirsty, it will not eat again. And if it doesn't eat again, it affects your production. So be able to watch this and plan very well with your farm staff so that they know the implication of some of these management practices that you are doing. If they understand the implication of what you are planning, then they will be able to follow through with you and be able to deliver on it. You can also decide to produce your own feed using ingredients that are available in the market. Feed ingredients are the normal feed resources that we have around us. You can produce your own feed. You can calculate the number, the protein content required and actually use Pearson square or algebraic method to calculate the feed that the bird should take. But I will recommend that if you are coming in new in the business, it is better to stick with the manufacturers that are vouched for. As time goes on and as you improve on your own knowledge and your own skills, then you can look at compounding your own ration. These days, the feed millers have feed formulas at the feed mill. So you may not buy the branded feed. You can go to any of these tall houses that mix feed and they give you the formula, or you even provide your own formula and they can produce to specification. This is a little cheaper than buying the branded feed, but then you also need to know exactly what you are doing. In some cases, in large poultry, they actually hire a feed personnel and now put in their own feed mill and process their food. This is good where you can afford it. Feed mill is expensive. I tried looking at a 1-ton mixer, and I realized that a 1-ton mixer will cost close to ₦1 million just to be able to buy the mixer at the hammer mill. You need to also build the house for the feed mill. You need to build the store where you keep the feed ingredients and so on and so forth. But it is also a lucrative business. If you are involved in it, you can reduce your cost of production significantly if you are able to produce your own feed. But it can be a major source of failure if you do not do it well. Should you not be able to meet the specification of the macro and micro ingredients required, you may fall into a problem with your feed. So once again, if you are starting newly, maybe I advise you go with the existing ones and gradually learn your ropes around how to make your own feed. Gradually teach your people the precision measurements they require in order to be able to compound the feed, and also in order to be able to mix the feed adequately. Sometimes when you are mixing your own feed, you don't also mix the ingredients very well. And so some of the macronutrients do not mix evenly within the feed. And you also have some deficiency symptoms in your birds. So that is as important as the feed issue is, and you should plan it effectively, knowing what to do. Do you want to buy? Do you want to produce? What are the ingredients that are available around you that are constant? Because you also should not change feed abruptly to birds. If they are used to a particular feed and you come one day because there is no maize, so you just change to sorghum, the birds will be affected. It takes time for them to get used to such a feed. So you need to consider all that. I want us to play a short video as I round up on this presentation so that you can listen to this video on tips on how to plan your farm.
How I start the day, you know. So many people have asked me, how do I start a poultry business? How do I start a poultry farm? How do I make a poultry business a success? And today I'm here to answer you, you know. So for you to start a successful poultry business, there are various factors you need to put into consideration. You know, number one, you actually need to identify the poultry sector. You need to identify which poultry sector do I need to invest in, so that you come into the business knowing that this is my interest. So actually the poultry sector includes something like we have the egg sector, we have the meat sector, we have actually feed production sector, you know, and we also have the sector for processing of meat and eggs. So once you identify the sector, with a passion, you have a passion, you build it continuously, and then you get ready into the field. You actually need to have a strategy. This thing is all about strategy. Nobody should just tell you that you wake up, you know, in the morning and because you've seen somebody is running a successful poultry business, you don't know how they got there, you don't know how long it has taken them to get there, and you just end up saying that, oh no, I have to do it, and I'm going to start also my poultry business, and it's going to work. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to have a strategy. You say, like, I'm going into this poultry business of eggs, I'm going to start it this time, and by this time I should have attained this goal this way, and I'm going to get my finances this way, I'm going to get my brief this way, maybe I'm going to apply for some financing and some stuff. So after identifying the poultry sector that you want to go into, then choose the bird. You choose the bird, and you can say, you want to do chicken, like some of us, or you want to do turkey, or you want to do ducks, or you want to do birds like guinea fowl. Basically here, you look at ornamental poultry farming, or you look at the commercial aspect of it. However, these days, there is also commercialization of the ornamental industry. I have seen a state whereby individuals are bringing up guinea fowls and they're hatching and selling the birds, the chicks. So after identifying your bird, then now don't just identify the bird and to you start bringing the chicks, you start doing everything. No. Remember, do a lot of research in that bird. Go to the internet, read, go to the universities. Abraham Lincoln said, you will never go wrong when you consult the experts. So read about these birds and you go to the internet, you research. But my point is always do hands-on, hands-on. Get attached to a farm. Look for a farm that is doing it practically. Go there. Some farms will give you a job to work with them, either as an intern. They might pay you something small. Some farms will request you to pay for their training. And some farms will actually just you work there for free. But go to that farm where the thing is being practiced physically. And my friend, do it. Do it. Do it with your two hands. Listen with your two ears. And see it with your two eyes. Don't wait to be told a story that you know this is how it's done, this is how it's done, you will fail. That's the time when you realize that you're starting the business and you begin regretting and saying, oh my God, I wish I would have done this thing. How did I get here? This is not my thing. So therefore, I tell you, go to that farm after identifying that bird, do the things practically, know what type you need to feed, know which types of feed, know the amounts of feed, how much it costs you, how much will you source the feed, how much can you go about the feed, such like things, which vaccines to use, the productivity of the bird, Many times some breeders will say, you know what, this breed can do very well, can give you this number of eggs. Honestly, you try that breed and you're in for a rude shock and you're saying like, oh my God, why did I do this in the first place? That's why I tell you, you need to go hands-on. Do these things with your two hands, Learn these things with your two hands and see how it's being done, do it practically. Inject the body with that need, need to come up with the farm logo. You come up with your own slogan. For example, for me, I am Afri-Chic and I use my slogan is best breeds, best profits. Be passionate about that logo. Work with it, feel it as your own passion so that it molds you up, you work towards that logo and let it be your brand from the first day. Go. Happy. Okay. Too great. Then identify a location. I always advise you as a farmer or you as an upcoming farmer to identify a very suitable location for the setup of a farm. The best locations are actually, if you're doing, for example, you're doing eggs or you're doing meat, it's close to a town, close to an urban center. Set up your farm near an urban center. Why? You are setting up your farm near a market. Location is very important also because don't set up a farm in a place whereby there are so many farms or there have been farms before and then maybe there have been perennial diseases and they are still there and then they come and whip or swipe your flock. Location is also very important because there are some breeds that you could be wanting to keep or that type of bird that you want to keep could not be suitable with that climate of that particular location that you would be just wishing to put your birds. So it's very important that you identify the correct location so that you have a cheap, affordable location that is very strategic to set up your farm. Number 5, financial aid. You need to be a bit financially stable, if not financially stable, in order for you to honestly venture into this business of poultry farming. You can either seek loans from banks, and if you are not in a position to seek a loan, actually the best solution is you to partner with others like us, like me here. Partnerships have always been the best option because you spread the risk and you get the financial muscle. Now you have the finances, you have a very good location, you have chosen the bird, you have done the thing practically, you have a bit of knowledge, the practical knowledge. So what is remaining? To set up the industry, the business. That takes me to the next point. Number 5, actually number 6. You then need to get experts. Have the experts at hand. You can either hire them permanently or you can seek their consultancy services. This will help you in our next step, that is setting up the farm. While setting up a farm, you need a design. You need a design of the farm. This is what the offices will be. This is what the hatchery will be, or this is what the egg collection center will be, and packaging. An expert will always help you to set up the farm. For your information, an expert in the industry is not necessarily a vet. These days we have got agri-business experts. Those are the best people who will advise you because they have the knowledge of the farming, and they have the knowledge of the business, and they have the knowledge of the marketing. So these are the best persons you ought to consult. So they will advise you on which modes to do. So basically now you get an expert to advise you on your financial planning and how to build the houses, which designs, After building the houses, then we go into our next step, recruitment. You then need to recruit your staff. Because you are a starter, never ever go for staff that are coming to work on your farm for the first time. In short, never go for staff that is not experienced. That is equal to committing suicide. You know what? You are all new to the game. So because you're all new to the game, then your project is going to be an experiment. Then why should you experiment with your finances? And this is something you seek alone, or you borrow money from your friends, or you partner with somebody else and convince him that there is a big return in this industry. Don't do that risk. So advertise or go to other farms, seek for some trainees, employ persons who have experience, who are casuals, that are affordable. You can be able to pay them something at your range. So after hiring your experts or semi-experts, then you go ahead and buy equipment. After hiring your experts, then you go to construction. Now you want to commit your finances. Commit your finances now, start setting up the farm, the houses. I know some people would want to start with very big houses, want to do. You can use simple structures. Actually for me, I prefer temporary structures or simple, affordable structures. And then you move from one step slowly to another step. You don't just build, you're starting and you're building up. Then after building the houses, then go to the next step. Buy equipment. That means you need to have the place. Remember big feeders for the bullets and the cob. Then get your drinkers. Buy your drinkers, enough drinkers. have them in place, fill your pharmacy, because I'm sure by that time now you've already gotten an expert who is part of the team, someone with knowledge in the poultry industry, then the medication, that is an animal science expert. Having your equipment ready, you know, you bought your feeders, you have bought your drinkers. Then you go into a very critical stage. This is now introducing the flock to the farm. You don't necessarily have to buy day-old chicks, because buying day-old chicks, many people will think that you buy day-old chicks and start. No, you can start by maybe buying you can start by buying chickens that are at growing stage, or guinea pigs that are at growing stage. But don't buy birds that are at point of play. Buying birds that are at point of don't buy birds that are already laying. Buying birds that are already laying, someone could sell you birds that he or she is culling, and here buying the birds, you're happy you're going to start with the money at your table. No. Buy birds that have already been weaned, so they are either at growing stage or they are at POL, point of play. So that is a good flock you can buy for yourself, and you will good to go. So you have the birds on the farm, you have the experts, then start slowly and grow towards somewhere. The final step actually now is looking for a market. Get the right market for your products. And by saying that you get a good location for the farm, that is building the farm at least getting the farm close to an urban center, that means at least you had some hopes of a good market. So by doing that, at least you have a market, and go to the internet, market the product, market your produce, and market your farm. You know, you could get money from various angles of the industry. You could not necessarily get money from, you know, selling meat, selling eggs. You could get money from consulting, you know, visits. When people visit the farm, they pay something. You know, when some students come to the farm to do some practicals, they could purchase something small. And then we could generate income from several angles. Then you can perfect your business. By perfecting your business, you can also win awards. Awards don't come for free. Awards comes with sweets. So that is my main advice to the starters. And so
All right, thank you. I hope we have enjoyed this video that is entertaining but passes the message on how to start the farm. And so I hope you have also learned from what you have heard. One of the things he said, which is quite interesting, is the fact that you can earn money from other sources other than your main production objective. For the farm I have, my passion is actually to be a career guidance personnel for agri. I realize that most people do not want to go into agriculture as a first option. You go to the university, it's either you cannot get admission in medicine, you can't get admission in pharmacy, and so on, due to agri. But agriculture is actually a field that requires passion, like you said. You need to have passion for what you are doing. And so I created that Sajoda innovation because I want to visit primary schools, I want to visit secondary schools and talk about farming by choice. Going to a university, a polytechnic, to actually read agri because that is what you want. I want to change the narrative where when you see textbooks, you see when they say this is a doctor, you see him wearing a clean white robe with stethoscope, and he looks Okay. When they say this is a lawyer, you see him wearing his hood and coat, and he looks fine. But when you see a farmer, what do you see? You see somebody wearing torn and tattered clothes that is hanging a hoe on his shoulder, and that tells you poverty. That tells you suffering. And so nobody in primary school or going to secondary school, we want to suffer. And so that psychology at the back of our head stops us from going to read agriculture, because from the onset, we see that it is drudgery, it is suffering. But when I see a medical doctor looking neat and clean, naturally I will choose to read that. So my own take on my farm is to be able to change the narrative, to say that the present day agriculture is not for somebody wearing a torn clothes, and it's not for somebody that is carrying a hoe on his shoulder. It is for men and women that have passion. It is for men and women that are well educated. It is for men and women that know where the money lies. That is the story the Sajoda Innovation Farms seeks to address. And so students come to visit the farm from the schools, either primary schools or secondary schools. They come to visit the farm, and I take them round through the various things that we need to do or we are doing. It's still a new enterprise. It's a dream that I have, and I'm committing every resources that I get to that venture, because I want to change the narrative in agriculture in the country. Most times, it's only retired people that want to go into agri with retired money. But you can choose to go into agri with your current profession, with your current dignity in the labor force, not because I'm retired and I have nothing to do, but because it is a choice I am making and it is going to profit me. So if for me, who is a female, who is seen to be a weaker sex, and therefore may not have the strength to do some things, I'm going into it. If having read to the level of a professor, and I'm still going to put my hands into poultry litter, do this, do that, it is to change the narrative to say that particularly livestock agriculture, is the way to go. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you, and over.
For the lecture, it was quite interesting, and I hope the participants, you were able to learn from her wealth of experience. Please kindly unmute yourself so that if you have any questions or areas you want further explanation, you can ask. If the audio is not clear, you can send chat. You can send your questions through chat. But if you wish to speak, please kindly indicate so that we'll take some few questions.
Good morning, or good morning, Prof.
Ma, can you hear him?
Yeah, I can.
Hello, Ma, can you hear him? Okay,
yes,
all right.
Good morning, Prof. My name is Carlo Awa.
Good morning, Carlo. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Incidentally, I guess you know who I am.
Ah.
Yes, you do. You do. We interact often. I was the one who indicated that I intend to establish a farm in my village.
Okay.
I think in Abuja. Incidentally, I'm a staff of NAM, your junior colleague.
Okay.
So actually, my initial thinking about farming was to start with livestock feeds. I intended to start a livestock feed business. And in the process, because I know to start a poultry farm, it has gestation time for you to learn, especially from, it is now very obvious that it's a complicated business. It's not just something you just buy birds and begin to feed them and expect to make so much money. So you need a period. I needed to start a livestock feed business. From there, I'll use this period to learn the ropes of running a poultry farm. Then from there, I could feed my own birds from this my business while I sell to others. You know, that was my initial thinking because I like doing things and doing them properly. Especially learning from experts like you. I also intend that with time I'll reach out to you and interact with you at I think Sajoda Innovative Farms. Also get literature on how to go about this business. So what I'm trying to say in conclusion is I appreciate this presentation of yours and we'll plead with you for a follow-up, whether in Abuja or in Kaduna, while I also do the hands-on. I have a neighbor who runs a poultry farm, so I intend to also interact with him. So I appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kalu, and I'm happy to note that you are thinking of doing something in the agri field, particularly on feed. You want to formulate feed. You want to have a feed company. It's it's good to have a feed company, but I will advise that it is a very critical aspect of poultry production. And most people will also like to use feeds that they know or are branded. So if you are starting solely on the feed production, it may not be very easy for you to create the market. Your marketing has to be very well. And I think that it may be good for you to also keep, if there are few, along with your production, such that you try this feed on your and you can be able to, you can see smaller niches, like that is to say people that have backyard poultry. You can be able to begin to use them to feed. And once you are able to get these few ones to agree to test your feed, they are the ones that will sell the story, because everybody is looking for how to reduce cost of production. The feeding cost is so high, and if I can make a difference of 200 naira, 300 naira, 500 naira from a bag of feed, and I'm having 400 birds, meaning for 400 birds, I may need to use like 6 bags a day. So if I have 400 by 6, that is already 2,400 or thereabout in one day that I'm calling a savings. So I think that is the way to go. You should put a few of these birds, try your feet on them, see how they are performing so that you can be able to tell a story. Then get across to people that have backyards that have 50 birds, 100 birds, and can buy small at a time. But they are the ones that when they go to buy feed or chick or they are day old, they are the ones that tell stories with their friends. This is where I'm getting my own, and this is when I bought it, this is how it did. Or in fact, they were at table size by so weeks. Before you know it, people will be coming, and then they can also see the sample of what you are doing around, and I think it will be good. Thank you. And I will be available within the campus for those of us that are staff of now, and for those of us that are not. I think our details are on the platform, and we will continue to chat on the forum that has been provided or on our personal phones and emails to provide the support that you need on this project going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. The next question, ma, is from Mohammed Yahya. So you can go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, Mr. Mohammed. How are you?
Good morning, Ma. Miss Hawa, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, participants. Actually, mine is just a comment, it's not a question. Right from childhood, we have this imbued perception of a farmer is somebody very poor. A farmer or being in the farming business is being perpetually or remaining poor for the rest of one's life. But this morning, I am delighted by the information I got from Professor Jokta that at least something new has been added to the farming profession. It is glorifying to note that the gentleman we saw in his farm or on his farm wearing a complete regalia commensurate with his status or socio-economic status in the society, at least glads one's heart. In a way, it tells somebody that there is money in farming. I do hope participants will also learn from this and be encouraged by the fact that it is not a question of wearing wig, laboratory, whatever that makes somebody happy enough. We also have something of that nature in the farming business. It is no longer the usual tattered dresses, but rather it's a question of wearing something very beautiful, something very corporate. So it tells more about you. That's my observation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the participants? Please, we want you to ask questions. Feel free to ask questions or any contributions you have. Ma, there was a message earlier. Somebody said the sound of the video clip was not loud enough for their comprehension.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think these are the only two questions we have. At the moment, there are no more questions, ma.
That one would want to learn from such a person if you are growing okra that he will not be able to tell you. So now we're beginning to have more specialized WhatsApp groups. So you find WhatsApp group like tomato WhatsApp group, cassava WhatsApp group, pepper WhatsApp group, ginger and garlic WhatsApp group. And honestly, sometimes when my phone is complaining that it's too loaded, I know why. It's because when you learn from people's first-hand experience, there are things that they're just priceless. And there are things that even if another person was telling you, they might not mention because they don't think it's important enough. So I definitely will share with you the contact that I have.
Let me just add to the discourse on okra. One of my colleagues who was on sabbatical at the Kaduna State University in Kafanchan, when the school went on strike, the university was on strike, so he felt that instead of sitting doing nothing, let him just enter into dry season farming. And he went to the community. They gave him part of the Fadama area where he could have water, and he said they gave him like a hectare. He said he did not even have the irrigation machine. All he was doing is when he comes, he will ask the farmers that are there, they will just rent it to him, and he will just use it for that. They buy the fuel. Some of them will even give him for free. We are not using it today. He will put the fuel and use it. There is a variety of okra that is called the short duration variety. It is called 30 days maturity variety.
30 days?
30 days. By the time you plant it, when you are counting 30 days, it starts flowering. And that okra produces, once it starts producing, you harvest almost every 3 days, you must harvest. If you don't harvest, it will be overripe and begin to get thick in such a way that it cannot be used for soup. He said for that 1 hectare, the first time they came to cut it, that he got 300,000. That was the first time buyers came, because it's Kafanchan. He made connection to Abuja, and people came from Abuja to come and buy. He told me that the first harvest was 300,000. You can imagine what he will be getting every 3 to 4 days throughout a period of probably 2 to 3 months of production.
Wow.
So there are so many things, and such an activity is not even capital intensive. Because at that point, what you may need to give farmers for a hectare may be 10, 15,000, at most 20,000. What fertilizer requirement is there for okra to grow? So there are a lot of things that when you link up to groups, like Madam is saying, you will get to know so many options available for you, depending on the income that is also available for you to do. But there are very good businesses that you can legitimately, and you will also make a lot of money. You will bring to bear your knowledge and your academic understanding, and therefore be able to do it a little better than what the farmers are doing. And once you can add a little value to what they are doing, you will be surprised at the increase in yield you get just by doing 1 or 2 things that they may not be correct.
Madam, I'm very interested in this 30-day, because most okras don't spend 30 days. There are many of them are almost 60 days.
No, I can get them for you. I have done it. When I was in Lagos, at NOUN office in Lagos, I was running a farm for okra in Abuja.
Wow.
And I actually did the 30 days okra. I was able to. So when he said this, I know that he actually
was. Yes. Wow. I'm interested in the seed. Maybe we'll talk more about it.
Exactly. I will help you sort that out.
Thank you. Another thing I wanted to add to Mr. Adeojo's comment. Sometimes in life, we overlook the simple things. Why was it that you wanted animal husbandry and they said you should come here? Please don't shut the door on poultry. Don't shut the door on poultry. You never can tell. You never ever can tell. I have people who they do not own a poultry house, and in a week, this particular lady, she can move 600 poultry birds, and she doesn't even have a poultry. She'll just call me, sis, how many do you have that I can get? By the time she calls people around, she supplies hotels, she supplies what do they call these restaurants and all. So just keep an open mind, especially as we are just starting. It's good to pursue the animal husbandry, but still keep an open mind. You don't know why you are sitting here and hearing this today.
Thank you, ma. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, ma. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Especially in these days of cattle rustling.
Yeah.
Some people will come to your house simply because you have 3, 4, 5 cows in your premises.
So it's been a very interesting discussion, and this is what I like about trading. We all learn from each other, you know. Now you've told me about the okra, and my head is already going because I have about half an acre here, and it just started flowering. So if I can do a 30-day one, why wait for this one for about 60 days?
Yeah, I will help you get the seed.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful. So, Madam Moderator.
Yes, ma.
Are we free to round up?
Yes, ma. It's almost time. Yes, ma, you can round up. It's almost time.
Okay. So, thank you, everyone. And for those who are aspiring for the NASA intervention, I say that it is worth it. I think the government is doing something very laudable. I don't think in the history of this country we've had such grace, whereby all we're supposed to do is come and even learn more. Before, nobody will even insist that you go and gain knowledge. You probably will take the money, burn your fingers, and start all over again and get into trouble. So I think it's a very wonderful one, and for Nuan to be a part of it, because when they first spoke about it, that it was going to be online and all, I panicked a bit because I know that in as much as some Nigerians are embracing all this digital learning, some are still very reluctant. They still think it has to be physical. But I've had so much interaction and I've enjoyed myself as much as if we were in a room together. From now on, I know me and my co-facilitator will be on cha-cha-cha-cha. So our able moderator, thank you very much for holding forth. And to participants, I think we have another session tomorrow. So Prof and I will talk about tomorrow. Yes. Thank you very much for having me.